Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is John and this is your Modern Tech Breakdown. Today I'm taking a look at OpenAI's newly released models that can apparently perform complex reasoning. Let's jump into it. Alright, so right off the top, a small disclaimer. I'm not an AI expert, but I am pretty familiar with machine learning techniques and I've actually built a few models in my day. With that said, the comment section below is there for a reason. If I say something that isn't fully accurate, let's discuss it. None of us is as smart as all of us. Alright, here we go. So let's break down what OpenAI is releasing. Let's start with the headline. We are introducing OpenAI O1, a new large language model trained with reinforcement learning to perform complex reasoning. O1 thinks before it answers. It can produce a long internal chain of thought before responding to the user. So the first nugget that jumps out to me is, quote, complex reasoning. That seems to be different from traditional LLMs, which aren't really considered to reason, but really just try and predict the next word after a series of words based on training from a large collection of sentences. Traditional LLMs mostly focus on predicted words, but apparently this new model does, quote, complex reasoning. We'll get into that later. The next bit that catches my eye is O1 thinks before it answers. It can produce a long internal chain of thought before responding to the users. Okay, it clearly does some processing in a different way. My first reaction is, wow, that's interesting. I hadn't heard of this technique before. My second reaction is it produces a long chain of thought before responding. That sounds like some expensive compute resources at inference time. I wonder how much it'll cost OpenAI to run this model. The article then brags a bit about the performance of the model. That's great. Then it says that access is limited to trusted API users. I'm not sure what the definition of an OpenAI trusted user is, but it does seem like access is being limited, so perhaps this model is expensive to operate. Speculating a bit there, but it seems possible. Okay, next I noticed the phrase highly data efficient training process. I find that interesting because there's been a lot of discussion lately about AI companies paying to license data from large content owners like Stack Overflow or the Associated Press. So it seems that OpenAI has spent some time working on training techniques that are more data efficient, which seems like a good business move. All right, after a bit more bragging about just how smart this model is, we finally get into the meat of what OpenAI means by complex reasoning. Here they introduce the concept of chain of thought, and I'll quote from OpenAI. Through reinforcement learning, O1 learns to hone its chain of thought and refines the strategies it uses. It learns to recognize and correct its mistakes. It learns to break down tricky steps into simpler ones. It learns to try a different approach when the current one isn't working. So I read that, and it would seem that they're sending the prompt to the model, and the model doesn't immediately attempt to respond based on learned probabilities. Instead, it tries to respond with a breakdown of the prompt, and then takes that breakdown and then sequentially sends components of that breakdown back into the model, and it iterates on it. Here you can see the chain of thought that the model has created for an example. It just goes on and on. A few things to note. First, the chain of thought will not be included in the output. It seems like OpenAI is protecting its model a little bit with that decision. Second, this seems like an interesting approach. I wonder how the model figures out when to stop and when it has come to a solution. And third, this definitely seems compute intensive. Perhaps the model is optimized so that each iteration isn't compute intense, but this chain of thought looks like it could be expensive to generate at scale. From here, OpenAI goes on to brag a bit more about model performance, specifically with respect to programming tasks as well as human user preferences. And then OpenAI rambles on about AI safety, which is completely uninteresting, and I'm not going to cover it here. And that's it. So this is a really interesting release from OpenAI. I've been saying for a while now that AI needs some innovation to generate more revenue to continue to justify the eye-watering billions of dollars of investment that big tech has been pouring into AI. This seems like the kind of thing that I'm talking about. This seems like it could be the possible beginning of some true AI breakthroughs that will push the field forward. But what do you think? Is this new complex reasoning and chain of thought approach going to yield a big advancement in AI? Let me know in the comments. As always, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will catch you next time.